let's do it.
Okay.
So welcome everyone. We are very glad you're here. My name is Eric Eaton. I'm joined by Asif Ramani, CEO of VisualSP. What we want to do in today's webinar is we want to talk about something we're doing to try and help through the problems that organizations are facing right now with the pandemic. The idea is this free Microsoft 365 toolkit for the second wave of remote work. You may be thinking, wait a minute, we're still in the first wave, and that may be true, but for a lot of organizations, that first wave is at least starting to wind down. And people are trying to get used to what is the new normal, even figuring out what the new normal is. And there is some reason to believe that we may have a similar situation that comes up, whether it's this situation or something different. The good thing for all of us to take from this is it's an opportunity for us to prepare, so that if and when this situation presents itself again, where all of our employees need to quickly start working from home, that perhaps we can make that go a little smoother. Just to give you an idea of where we're going with that, we have a product that we're offering for remote workers or for a remote workforce, because we realize there are some common pain points faced by both the individual and by the organization. So in this product, was what we're going to be talking about today, is how we can ease that transition, or how we can help you ease that transition. So it involves some content that gets included in this package for you, as well as the ability to create your own content and then have it delivered with a contextual help tab, like you see here on our website. We're going to dive into this in more detail in today's demonstration. Here's some examples on this page. We're also sharing this link with you, so it's something you can quickly find some more information about and refer to again later. We'll also share this with you after the webinar as well. You see lots of ways that VisualSP can help with some of the common pain points that occur, whether that's how-to information or other things like announcements and alerts and video announcements from CEOs and things like that that help to set expectations and clarify priorities and motivate people, keep the tone positive in the organization, even in a difficult situation. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. Before we get into more of these details, we would like to ask you a couple of questions. So first of all, how has your organization done so far? How would you say you've weathered the work from home storm with this big experiment that virtually every organization in the world has had to figure out? Asif just opened a poll for us, where you get to vote on the scale of 1 to 5, how well you think it's gone so far. I'll let you watch that and gauge the answers, share anything interesting you're finding there. Asif?
Yeah, a lot of folks currently saying, great, why do we even have an office?
Well, there you go. I'm kind of in that camp myself. I like working from home. You know, one thing we've recognized is that for a lot of people, whatever you felt before, this process has confirmed it, right?
Sure.
But what we're finding is that a lot of organizations have had some level of struggle, even if maybe as an individual you haven't. You know, a lot of organizations have struggled a bit with this. You know, what expectations do we set? How do we get important communications to people when and where they need them? How do we reduce the friction for all the people that are not used to using the remote tools? Likely it's slightly different tools than what you would have used if you were in the office. So lots of possible pain points there. Maybe we should have had another poll for who doesn't like to vote in polls.
Here are the results, actually. I'll share with everybody.
Great.
Yeah, most folks said, great, why do we even have an office? Followed by a mixed bag. And then after that, remote is a nice change of pace. Nobody said, are we done with this yet? Or this feels like a Stephen King book.
Okay, well, that's good. A nice positive tone in the room for us as individuals and organizations. And that's good. And the idea is hopefully we can help others to view it that way as well, because there has been a lot of angst in the world over the forced work from home experiment. I'm glad it's not affected those here on this call personally that way. But there has been a lot of that overall. So another question, what were your pain points? Actually, I had those a little out of order. Let's go as an individual first. We had some people, at least, that were saying it was a mixed bag. What pain points were you doing? We have another poll we put together. It's a multiple choice, so it's not a lot of pressure to answer here. Any of these pain points in this poll, something that resonates with you a little bit, something you've experienced?
Maybe this time I'll keep it a secret instead of saying it. See when we show the poll exactly what it is. Otherwise, I feel like I'm coloring some people's responses saying, hey, most people are voting for that, so let me vote for this too.
Everybody else feels this way. You agree, right?
All right, I'm going to go ahead and show the poll. There it is. Mostly saying confusion with new tools, followed by, please, not another video meeting. I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah.
And then email avalanche. Then after that, background distractions. And then lastly, hard to share information.
Gotcha. So it's not a surprise. The new tool confusion is a common pain point that we hear from a lot of people, because a lot of the things that you may be asked to use may have been things that were available to you before, or maybe they weren't. Maybe you're getting a whole new tool set with Office 365, whereas your company wasn't doing that before. Or maybe it's just a little different. There's things that have been available, but you didn't really use it that much because you were there in the office with everybody you were collaborating with. So it's whether it's brand new or whether it's a sudden dependence on these tools, either way, it creates friction, it creates problems. So it's not surprising to hear that one is the lead one. What about as an organization is another good question here. Because an organization has a different perspective than individuals, right? We've got a few possible answers for this one too. I wanted to get an idea of what has been your experience so far. If your perspective is more than, you're responsible for more people than yourself. Maybe you're a team leader, maybe you're more of an administrator, more of a manager or a leader in an organization. What do you think there? Or if you're not in one of those roles, what do you think the organization has struggled with?
Last poll. Thanks, guys.
It is the last one, I promise. Cut the suspense with a knife.
Yeah. All right, I'll give a few more seconds. Most people have already done it. And closing it out now. There it is. I'll go ahead and read it off again. The answers: top 1, inconsistent priorities and expectations, followed by increased support burden from remote tools, then insufficient meetings, then low morale, tied with important messages get lost in the clutter.
Gotcha. Okay, that is very helpful to get an idea of what your experience has been through this, because every organization is a little different. Some have a culture that is more easily adapted to a work from home scenario than others. And so it's good to hear, good to know what your perspective is. Let's talk a little bit about some common points coming with these. Okay, so as an organization, one of those questions is how do you...
I hit it. Do you want me to share it again?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, let's put the slides up. Sorry, I thought it reshowed. Get that. Okay, better?
I cannot see your screen yet.
All right, we're going to go with this one. All right, try again there. Okay.
Back.
Now it'll be simpler. We're done with polls, right? But some of the things that we've seen, both from your voting as well as from other experience we're having with organizations at the moment, is these are a couple of the big ones. How do you deliver communications? So what you noticed from your individual perspectives on things was that the email volume increases exponentially. Once everyone is remote, then everything that might have been just a casual comment to somebody now becomes an email. So the volume increases exponentially. The stuff of value is very difficult to find in your inbox. And if you're the one that's trying to send those bulk communications that are really important to all of your employees, that's a big challenge. That's important for lots of reasons, right? You need to set expectations consistently. Many of you mentioned that that's something you've struggled with in your organizations, is what is the expectation in this scenario? For whether it's schedule, whether it's use of tools, whether it's change in habits, whatever that is, what are those expectations? Those need to be communicated clearly. And it could very well be that emails were sent out and hardly anybody saw them because of the big avalanche of messages. Similarly, it's important for leaders to be able to motivate people, to set a positive tone about the situation, as well as to announce things and alert people to things and to remind people about things in the course of their work. And again, those things can be accomplished in email, but if you've ever been the one that had to send those out, you get maybe a 20% read rate on bulk emails that send out even internally. So having a better way to do that can be really important in a remote scenario where you don't have the face-to-face, the word-of-mouth things that happen in an office when everyone's sitting in cubicles and can talk to each other. Another one is how you provide guidance and governance about what an employee should do in this situation, as well as to answer common problems people are having, especially with those new tools that they may be required to use now. So those are some common pain points. Another one on the individual level, we talked about several of these. How do you get connected? In some cases, you may be using cloud tools, and others you may need a VPN, you may need a remote desktop. What are the options, and how do I connect to them? Those are going to be common recurring questions that people have a lot in these scenarios. How do you collaborate and share things with other people? How do you use those new tools? How do you manage your flow of messages and work across devices? In a home environment, that's one a lot of people don't think about, but just using my work laptop on the kitchen table has problems. There are times where you may need to quickly adapt, work from another room, or your Wi-Fi goes down, you have to work from a 4G device. There's lots of reasons that that can be really important. So the help kit that we're providing helps to address those in several key ways. First of all, if you're the one responsible for sending those communications out to people, whether they're leadership videos from your leadership, or expectations and reminders and alerts and announcements, whatever those are, they give you the ability with a remote worker help kit, that you can push those things to people in those tools where they're working already. You've got a much better chance of them seeing them. You also have the ability, as it says here, to answer things on demand. When you're having those common questions and common problems that all of your employees or all of your users are struggling with at the moment, you can publish those so that those answers follow them to the places where the questions occur. Makes it much easier for them to find an answer, much easier for them to be productive, and much less burden on your support personnel. And that really all contributes to reducing the friction. Finding ways to do that when and where people need it, rather than making everybody flail and try to ask people. So how do we do that? Let's jump into a demo. So let me bring up an example here. Okay. So what I'm looking at the moment is the office.com homepage, and the remote worker help kit shows up here, okay, as a tab in the browser. When you click on that, you'll notice we have a couple of sample announcements that are here, but we also have these remote worker tips pop up. So these tips are useful really no matter what place we're going in Office 365 here. Some of these are specific to this, like this one is specific to the Office 365 homepage, but notice several of these others can be specific to your organization. Like for instance, if you're using a remote desktop, there's a fill in the blank help item here where you can specify what is the address people need to do that. You could also edit this and put other steps in here if you had specific things relative to it. But having a prefabricated help item that's easy for you to customize here is a big part of communicating that. Similarly, VPN details. Another one is where you get answers and advice. A lot of organizations are still having tickets for support, but they may be doing something else. Like they may have a Teams group that's set up where people can come, excuse me, where people can come and ask questions and get advice from people. That's a less formal, more exploratory, more conversational, and a lot of times faster than a ticket would be as well. So good ways that information or things like that can be published right here in this help tab. And this tab then follows you from place to place. Interestingly though, it's not always the same help items, because if all the help is shown to you together, it's very difficult to zero in on what exactly is helpful to me at the time. So for instance, if I go to OneDrive, you'll notice the Help tab follows me here as a user as well, but it's going to show me things that are specific to OneDrive, and then also those things that my organization decided I needed to see all the time. Give it just a moment to finish loading here. OneDrive is never slow, right? There we go. So the tab is up. We still get announcements, but notice there's a start here, and now it has kind of the top 5 things I need to know about using OneDrive. So you'll notice these are typically videos. This one is a walkthrough, an interactive tutorial. It's going to take us a tour around here. I'm going to close this one for now, just to give you an idea of the different kinds of help that are available. Here's one about syncing. So this one is a video that comes from Microsoft, as well as some text-based material down here at the bottom that may help you. If you've never done a sync of OneDrive, it's a great starter for that. So you notice these are the top 5 things that are people that are using OneDrive either new for the first time or for the first time in a remote scenario. These are the things that may very well help you to be more successful working with that, as well as a bonus tip about taking OneDrive with you, having the mobile app for your other devices, helping you work across devices, which in a remote scenario is very important. The other thing that I'd like to mention is that the Remote Worker Help Kit takes some of those help items and provides them out in the interface here as well, so they're more visible. An organization can decide once they get this set up for themselves that they want these to come up as 1 tip a day or 1 tip a week or something like that, so they automatically display for people instead of them having to go find them. We find this to be very popular in some organizations. So the top 5 things you need to show up right up here. Another example might be if I wanted to go into a SharePoint site. This is the OneDrive view into the document library of that SharePoint site. Okay. I'm going to actually go to the there we go, sample team site. Okay. SharePoint loads up. We'll get our Help tab here. And now you'll notice that, again, we have specific information for how to get started in SharePoint team sites. So again, we have the top 5 things you need to know, including setting up the mobile apps for that. So the content that's in the Remote Worker Help Kit is really focused on scenarios that are likely to be core scenarios for people that are remote workers, especially if they're new remote workers, where this has not been something they've developed good habits and good processes and are familiar with these tools already. So what tools are supported? Well, we mentioned the Office.com homepage, we mentioned OneDrive, SharePoint, and also Microsoft Teams is a part of this as well. As an organization, if you are the ones that are in charge of administering this type of thing, maybe you're part of the Office 365 admin team, or maybe you're part of a communications team, or the management and executive team for an organization. In those cases, if you need to be able to post announcements, or if you're the one responsible for filling in the blanks, let me go back to the Office homepage back here. If you're the one responsible for filling in the blanks on these items, how do you do that? Well, up here at the top, there's a menu, and if you are a user that's been granted edit permissions, then you have the ability to enable and disable edit mode. And then any one of these help items, you can click on the little pencil button, and it will open up a very easy point-and-click editor where you can make changes. So right here is all the text that makes up that help item currently. So here, I could make the change for the URL, or I could click up here and change any of the numbered steps and add any images or other steps that would be helpful for my users. So important but easy thing for you to do. In a matter of just a few minutes, you can go through and fill in the blanks for these 3 items, or maybe use those as a pattern to create another one. For instance, if you have multiple tools that you need to make people aware of, you might take one of these options that's already most of an announcement, and there's a copy as new option down here. So it copies the entire thing, and now you can change the title, change the description, change the content of those items. Very quick and easy to do. You don't need to be a developer or really have any deep level of technical knowledge to be able to do these things. Okay. Other things you might need to know are along the lines of the announcements. We have a couple of samples here. One of these might be a video. This is a common request in large times of change for organizations, is where an executive, specifically a CEO perhaps, may want to post a video that explains to people what the expectations are, helps them look at things in a positive light, sets priorities, gives guidance to the organization. And one of the things that's hard in a remote scenario is putting a human face on things like that. So a video can be a really powerful way to do that, put a human face on it and really lead an organization that way. So it becomes very easy for you to publish videos. This sample video announcement is about the VisualSP tool. We've included these because you may want to use these to help your users get used to the tool itself. So this is an example of video. This is an example of a rich text item. Has a picture, has some text that explains what this is for. So some sample announcements that are here. Again, you could create your own if you like. There's a big green add button up here at the top to create them. Let's do an example. Let's say that we wanted to put an announcement in place that tells people that the office is opening for business again on whatever date that is. We'll just pick a date out of the air for that. Notice I do get several options here. I'm going to pick the banner as an option because we find that that's a pretty helpful thing. That a lot of you, it's a relatively newer feature that even if you've seen things from VisualSP before, you may not have seen this yet. Office reopening. And then for the banner content down here would be the actual announcement. Alert. The main office will be open again as of Monday. I don't know, what Monday do we have coming up? Let's say June 1st. And then of course you might have some other information here that you wanted to type about expectations. So the alert is going to show up as a colored banner. We have a preview button here that will click and show me what that looks like. If you see it up here, colored banner, we get kind of that manila color by default. If we close it, we're back in here. Notice you could change that if you wanted it to stand out a little more. You'll also notice that with the preview, and when someone sees it in real life, it overlays over the top of the Office Suite bar here. If that is likely to be a problem in your environment, you might want to show this at the bottom instead of the top. We'll preview again, and notice it shows up down here. Very easy, very subtle but visible way for you to put these types of messages in the browser where people are working every day anyway. Chances are they're spending a lot of time in things like OneDrive and Teams and Outlook. So all these web platforms, you can push these types of messages to any of them. Notice that you can make those on demand, which is what we've done so far, or you can come down here and you can also specify a load behavior. We could say that we wanted this to automatically display or load for people. I'm going to put a large number here, the first 1,000 times that's available to them. And then I can put a date range down here. That way it's not really going to be 1,000 times. It'll just be the first times between now and Friday. Actually, in this case, I might want to make it, since the announcement's about June 1st, I want to make it through May 31st. So this will basically mean that banner is there for them during that period until they click the X button. We'll preview it again. In this case, it will show up at the bottom of the browser automatically for users anywhere where we've configured it to be visible. So lots of different types. The banner is one we think that you're going to use a lot for these types of announcements and alerts, but there are others as well. There's a rich HTML one that you can pick that shows up more as a dialog box. Again, I'll preview this. See, it's the same information, just the presentation is different. So it's not a right or wrong. It gets down to what is useful for you in your scenario. What's the right match? The video example we used before is very easy here as well. If it's a video that you have a URL that goes directly to an MP4 file or something like that, you can pick this. If it's something that you're posting on YouTube, you can go get it from this and copy the YouTube URL and make that work as well. So lots of very easy options here for you to be able to publish the kind of content that you have. Very flexible tool. It's almost like Legos, right? But it's Legos that put information at people's fingertips when and where they need it. Let me think here. Any questions that are coming up? Also, if you're finding anything in the question and answer panel, if not, we can open it up to people.
Yeah, there's been a few questions, but I've been able to already answer. Obviously, one was about recording. Hey, are you guys recording this thing so I can have it later? Absolutely. Record all of our webinars and make it available later. Another question as to why are we doing this thing? Something that Eric talked about this morning. Why are we making this package available for free? What's the catch? If it were me, that's the question I'll be asking. How is
Sure.
it different from VisualSP Premium, and what do I get with this?
Sure. Those are great questions. And maybe we start with some of that. Let me bring up the product page again, because some of those questions go along nicely with this. But our intent here is to actually be helpful during a difficult time. We've built a good business around providing functionality like what we're describing here to enterprises for a fee. And we are still doing that. However, we realize that there are a few core features like the ones we're demonstrating here that are probably uniquely useful and necessary for organizations that are struggling with these changes right now. So we want to actually be helpful with it. And this is something that's within our power to do that. Now, as it mentions here, it's free for a limited time. This is not something we'll offer for free forever, but our intent is to be helpful with the crisis that's going on in the world today. At the moment, our plans are to make this free through the month of September. But again, since our intent is to actually be helpful, we will revisit that. If it's the right thing to do for us to extend it longer than that, then we can do so. But the idea of what's different from our premium product, we're still offering the premium product because some organizations, this is not enough functionality for. What we're describing is kind of a core set of tools. But if you look down at the bottom, gives you an idea of what's included. You do get this help tab. It's available. You do get the ability to create these easy pop-up messages. You can surface this within Microsoft Teams in the desktop application as well. It doesn't show up quite the same way, but it is available there as a Teams app natively. It's possible for you to customize this to put your own logo and your own titles on things. So lots of things that are available, but there are some things that are not there. You'll notice down later on the screen, there's some examples of what these different things look like, different types of help items, but there's some frequently asked questions at the bottom. One of that, the first one here, is what's different. So you notice with our premium products, the ones we're charging for, you'll get things like user analytics. How much traffic are you getting in the help system? Also, which items are the most popular? Who is clicking on them? Where are people browsing when they're looking for help and clicking on items? So you get a lot of information to help you be more successful with the things that you're creating and editing with those. You'll also get the ability, to do what's called a walkthrough in VisualSP, which is a more advanced type of help item. We had an example that we provide as one of our out-of-the-box help items. You remember in OneDrive, that welcome to OneDrive was a tour where it actually pointed at things on the screen and encouraged the user to interact with them as they're going through it. You can create those yourself if you're using our premium product, which allows you to help them with custom navigation schemes and things like that you may have in your environment, custom forms, many other things you may want to offer those type of custom interactive automatic walkthroughs. Instead of somebody having to stand behind somebody and point at the screen and walk somebody through it, you can create those automatically with no programming, all point and click. We have the ability to create inline help icons. If you remember, we had some examples of that in OneDrive, which I'll click on again. In OneDrive, we had the icons that show up here. We're doing this to show you the top 5 things you need to know right here in the interface. Many times organizations want to put these help icons right next to a button. So maybe right next to the sync button, you want to put some information here, not just about how to, but what are the best practices in your organization? Is this allowed or not? And if so, what's the right way to do it? So you can create those help items and float them right inside the interface where they're helpful. We also have a lot more content that's available. The remote worker help kit that we're offering is a very focused, targeted content set of 20 to 25 help items that focus on these 4 tools and some sample ones that are there for other technical support and announcement reasons. So that's what you get with that, but there are hundreds of help items available and other content packs that are available for purchase. So if this is the right answer for you, we are happy to offer it at the moment because we really do want to be helpful. This is a difficult time for individuals and organizations, and we really feel like we can do something to make that better. And we think also that you're going to like the tool and you're going to want to do more with it once you realize how useful it is. So if that's the case, we are happy to look at how we can do more things with you as well with a premium product. Anything you'd like to add, Asif?
Did a great job actually answering that. There's a question by Omar. I'll go ahead and read it out instead of answering it there so everybody can hear it. If I have the premium version of VisualSP, will these tools continue to be available for me after September without paying for an extra package?
Great question. If you've already got VisualSP, if you already have a subscription to that, this content could be added to that. That's not a difficult thing to do. That's just something by request. It could be added. If your question is if you purchase a premium subscription after using this, then you would already have the content in your subscription. So I'm not quite sure which way the question was intended
Yeah, I think
but hopefully that answers.
The VisualSP Premium is just a superset of what Eric has shown here. So if you have the premium package, premium subscription, then you have everything that we've shown anyway. The content specifically to remote workers, that if you don't have it, we can definitely make it available. That's not a problem.
Right. But you'll find that even if they're not labeled the same way, like in, let me go back to OneDrive here. We have help items that are labeled as start here in tip number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those items are available in our premium sets as well. They're just not labeled this as numbered 5 tips. But we certainly could add these to a premium subscription as well if you want. Easy to do.
A question, I'll read this one out also by Andrew, who's asking that we just need to submit the info at the bottom of the page to get started, to get this package. I think that's a good one as to what the next steps are if they're interested. And how hard would it be to deploy?
Right. So yeah, that question is great down here at the bottom. Many of you probably noticed there's a place down here when I was doing a test run. Right. I'm a Princess Bride fan, so the Revenge, Pirate Ship Revenge. Yeah. So yeah, you fill out the form and submit, and an account manager will be with you to help you get this set up. It does not take long to get it set up. It's something we can do pretty quickly for you by request. We just want some information about what's relevant for you in those. The other question was about deployment, I think, how quick or how easy is, or how hard is this to deploy? There's an FAQ about that as well, so I'll point you to that. I'll go ahead and answer the question, but I'll show you where that's at down here. The answer is VisualSP, what we're looking at here is deployed as a browser extension. So it's an add-on that's added for Explorer or Chrome or Safari or Edge, any of those common browsers that are out there. You can either just kind of publish the page where people can find that to people and let them install it themselves, or if you have domain administrators like with Active Directory, Microsoft, they can push this add-in to all of your users at once. It's not at all difficult to do. We have a good clear article that will tell those admins exactly what they need to know to push it, if that's something you would like to do as well. The other thing it mentions here is that there is a Teams app that's available. You can install it for yourself in the Teams app using the little search things that are there. But again, if you have an O365, Office 365 administrator, they can do this through the admin center and make it available to everybody pretty quickly. Again, it's just a few minutes to get that done. It's not at all a lengthy process. We've had conversations with a few organizations about this type of thing right as this crisis was beginning too. So it's something that we're encouraging you to plan ahead, take advantage of this and start plugging it in so that, if you want to go through another wave of these, it's already in place. But even if you did it at the time that it happened, it's pretty quick and easy the first day to be up and running.
No other questions currently. Folks, if you have questions, go ahead and put in the Q&A panel.
Another thing I'll mention, this might be interesting, if you're creating help items, even though it's point and click, there's no programming, no HTML coding you've got to do in here or anything, sometimes it's still a little intimidating for somebody to think through, what am I going to put? How would I build a help item that's very useful? What you can do is you can pick from some of these existing ones that we had. I'm on the website at the moment, which is showing you the different content. Let me go to the other option here. I mentioned the copy as new, but like for instance, if you take one of these sample ones, like this is one that had 2 columns in it and an image that was in there. It's not a terribly difficult thing to do in HTML. Notice I can maximize this. I can get in and I can make edits to it. But what you can do is copy as new, and it creates a new unsaved help item where you can just tweak things. You don't have to start from scratch. So now I could come in here and I could click on the image. I could go into where I would insert it, and now I could give it, I have another image already somewhere. I could just paste in the URL for the other image I wanted to be and tell it what size I wanted. Very easy ways for you to do this just by using something we've given you already. I think you'll find though that if you've created bulk emails before where you tried to make them a little nicer than just typing the text in, you're going to be comfortable in there pretty quickly. It's a very similar tool set to what you'd find in an Outlook or some other mail client or in Word or something like that. It's picking a style over here for headings, picking sizes, bold, italic, underline, colors, paragraph formatting, left, right, center. It's very normal stuff. And you have the ability in here to insert more advanced things like tables if you like as well. Okay. Well, we won't keep everybody longer unless there are questions to discuss, but what we'll do is we'll put this up. We've got a kind of a short URL here. I believe Asif already put it in the chat, I believe.
Yep.
So that's where you can find that information page about this product. Please feel free to reach out for answers at the bottom. Filling out the form at the bottom doesn't mean you've purchased it already. Remember, it's free anyway. You can just ask questions. It's the idea of getting a call with somebody that can answer your questions and get you set up. Okay? So please do take a look at that. We'll also send you an email following this. It's got the recording for this and a link to that page as well. Let's do that. Anything else you'd like to say in closing, Asif?
Yeah, I would like to request everyone who's here that help us spread the word if you feel that someone else can benefit from it. If you can benefit from it, great. Let us know, fill out the form, and we will be in touch. But if somebody else can benefit from it, even if they're not interested in the premium product, that's fine. If they can truly benefit from it for the next 3-4 months where we can offer it for free, let us know. That'll be really helpful. That's
Absolutely.
it from my side.
Yep. Well, thank you everyone for coming. We're very glad to offer this. We're very glad to get a chance to talk with you about it. And we're excited to see how many people, how many organizations we can help.
Thank you, folks. Have a great day.
Bye, everybody.